The morning was quiet. The glass doors of Prestige Motors, a luxury car dealership, sparkled in the sunlight. Inside, everything was clean, polished, and expensive. Shiny cars sat like kings on a carpet of marble floors. The smell of leather and new engines filled the air. Then the doors opened. A young man stepped inside. He wore ripped jeans, a plain black t-shirt, and old sneakers. His hair was short and curly, his skin a deep, smooth brown. His eyes looked calm, almost too calm. But the way he walked, slow and sure, caught the attention of everyone in the room. The receptionist blinked. The salesman stared. One of them whispered, "What's he doing here?" The manager, Mr. Lewis, frowned as he saw the young man walking around the cars. He didn't like it. Jason, the young man, didn't speak to anyone. He simply walked around the showroom, looking at each car slowly, especially a black Bentley and a gold Rolls-Royce. His fingers lightly touched the hood, and he smiled softly, like he had seen something beautiful. But Mr. Lewis didn't smile. He marched toward Jason. "Excuse me," he said sharply. Jason looked up. "Yes," he replied politely. Mr. Lewis crossed his arms. "Can I help you?" Jason nodded. "Yes, I'm just looking." The manager gave a fake smile. "These cars, they're very expensive," Jason replied calmly. "I know." "Then maybe you'd be more comfortable somewhere else," Mr. Lewis said, his voice cold now. Jason raised his eyebrow slightly. "Somewhere else?" "Yes," Mr. Lewis said, louder this time. "This is a premium showroom. We don't want people hanging around." Jason looked down at his ripped jeans, then looked back at Mr. Lewis. He didn't say anything. Other salesmen were now pretending to clean or arrange papers, but they were all watching. Some even smiled a little, thinking the scene was funny. One of them whispered, "Probably just a guy dreaming, broke and bored." Jason turned to leave. He could have said something. He could have argued, but he didn't. He just walked out, quietly, with his hands in his pockets. The manager shook his head and laughed to himself. Kids these days. He turned back toward the office. But before he could take 3 steps, the glass doors opened again. A black luxury car had pulled up outside. A tall man in a navy blue suit stepped out. His watch sparkled. His shoes were polished like mirrors. Everyone in the showroom suddenly stood up straighter. It was Mr. Kingston, a billionaire, powerful, famous, respected. He was known to buy 2 or 3 luxury cars at once, without asking. "The price." Mr. Lewis rushed to greet him. "Mr. Kingston, welcome back, sir," he said, nearly bowing. "We didn't expect you today." Mr. Kingston didn't smile. His sharp eyes scanned the room. He didn't look at the cars. He didn't look at the staff. He looked toward the door. And then he asked, in a cold, serious voice, "Where is my son?" The room fell silent. Mr. Lewis blinked. "Excuse me?" Mr. Kingston's face was firm. "Where is Jason?" The manager felt a chill. The young man who just left?" he asked, suddenly unsure. "Yes," Mr. Kingston said. Mr. Lewis's mouth went dry. He was just here, I thought." Mr. Kingston took a deep breath, and then he said, "That young man in ripped jeans is my only son." The staff froze. The silence in the showroom felt like thunder. Outside, Jason stood near the sidewalk, looking at the clouds. He heard footsteps. Behind him, he didn't turn around. His father's voice came, soft but strong. "Jason, I saw everything." Jason closed his eyes. "I didn't want to say anything. I just wanted to see how people treat someone they think has nothing." His father stood beside him. "And now you know." Jason finally looked at him. His voice was calm, but his eyes were full of emotion. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt. Inside the showroom, Mr. Lewis was sweating. He had no idea he had just kicked out the son of the man who could buy the whole dealership in 1 minute. And now, he was going to pay the price. But the biggest shock was still coming. Inside Prestige Motors, silence filled the air. The salesman stood frozen. Mr. Lewis, the manager, stared out the glass doors, his face pale. He had just kicked out the son of Mr. Kingston, one of the richest men in the country, and now Mr. Kingston had seen it all. Outside, Jason stood calmly beside his father. The sky was quiet, but inside his heart, old memories burned. This wasn't the first time he had been judged for how he looked. It wasn't the first time someone saw his skin and his clothes and thought he had no value. But today hurt more. Because today, they didn't just see him as poor. They saw him as invisible. Mr. Kingston turned toward the entrance and slowly walked back inside the showroom. The automatic doors opened. Jason followed, his steps slow but strong. The staff quickly straightened, their ties faking smiles, but Mr. Kingston didn't smile. He looked at Mr. Lewis. His eyes were sharp, cold. "Did you speak to my son?" he asked. Mr. Lewis stuttered. I didn't know he was your son, sir. I thought he was just—" Mr. Kingston cut him off. "Just what?" Mr. Lewis tried to explain. "He looked out of place. The jeans, the sneakers." Jason stepped forward. He wasn't angry. His voice was calm. "Tell me something, Mr. Lewis. When someone walks in dressed like this, what do you see?" The manager swallowed hard. I saw someone who couldn't afford anything here." Jason nodded. See, he said. "And if I was white, wearing a suit, would you still have told me to leave?" No answer. The staff looked away. Jason looked around the room. "I walked in to see who would treat me with respect," he said. "Not because of money, not because of my last name, but just because I'm human." He turned to one of the junior salesmen. "You smiled at me," Jason said. The young man nodded nervously. I thought you were cool." Jason smiled slightly. That small smile, he said, was the only human thing in this room. Mr. Kingston walked to the center of the showroom. His voice rose. "Listen carefully. What happened today will never be forgotten." He turned to Mr. Lewis. "You judged my son by his clothes. You insulted him without asking his name. You made him feel small." Mr. Lewis looked down, ashamed. I'm sorry, sir." Mr. Kingston shook his head. "Sorry doesn't erase the wound." Jason stepped closer. "I don't care about the cars," he said. "I came here because I wanted to believe people could change." Mr. Lewis looked up. "Give me a chance to make it right." Jason's eyes narrowed. "Would you have asked for a second chance if I wasn't his son?" Again, no answer. Suddenly, a reporter walked in. She had seen the video Jason posted a few minutes ago. He had quietly recorded the moment he was kicked out and uploaded it to social media. Now thousands were watching. "Excuse me," the reporter said. "Is it true this man was removed for wearing ripped jeans?" Mr. Kingston looked at Jason. Jason nodded slowly. "Yes, it's true, and it happens to people like me every day." The reporter's camera flashed. News was out. Later that evening, the showroom's name started trending online. Not for luxury cars, but for shame. People wrote comments like, "Judge by clothes, not character." Racism still lives in luxury spaces. Jason Kingston is a king. Jason sat quietly in the back seat of his father's car, watching the sunset through the window. His phone buzzed. Messages from strangers, thanking him, saying they felt seen. He looked at his father. "I didn't plan this," he said. His father smiled. But maybe the world needed to see it. Jason looked ahead. This wasn't just about one showroom. This was about every place where people were told they don't belong. Now he had a voice, and the world was listening. The sun was setting behind the tall buildings of the city, but inside, the walls of Prestige Motors, it felt like a storm had arrived. Mr. Kingston, the billionaire, stood tall in the middle of the showroom. His presence was powerful. His silence was louder than shouting. Everyone in the showroom knew the truth now. They had insulted his son, Jason, because he wore ripped jeans, because he didn't look rich. Mr. Lewis, the manager, was still sweating. He had spent years working in luxury showrooms, dealing with VIPs. But today, he had made the biggest mistake of his career. And Mr. Kingston wasn't just any customer. He could buy the entire building in one phone call. The reporter outside the showroom had started. Live streaming. Thousands of people were watching. Jason stood next to his father. Quiet, but strong. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't angry either. He was waiting to see how people would act, now that they knew who he really was. Mr. Kingston finally broke the silence. He looked at Jason. "I gave you a choice," he said. Jason nodded. "And I chose this." Mr. Kingston turned toward the staff. "My son didn't walk in here to buy a car," he said. "He walked in to test your character." He paused. "And you failed." One of the younger salesmen stepped forward. His name was Tom. "I didn't say anything rude," Tom said quietly. "But I also didn't stop the manager, I'm sorry." Jason looked at him. "Sometimes silence hurts more than words," Jason said. "But admitting it takes strength." Tom looked down. "I should have spoken up." Jason placed a hand on his shoulder. "Next time, do." Suddenly, Mr. Kingston pulled out his phone and made a call. "Yes," he said. "Buy out Prestige Motors. Full ownership. I'll sign the papers. In the morning." Everyone gasped. Mr. Lewis's legs felt weak. He knew what this meant. He was finished. Mr. Kingston looked at him. "You've built a place of business," he said, "but not a place of respect." Mr. Lewis tried one last time. "Please, I've worked here for 15 years. Mr. Kingston didn't blink. "Then you should have known better." He turned to Jason. "My son is going to run this showroom now, and he will run it with dignity." Jason stepped forward slowly. He looked around at the staff, some afraid, some ashamed. "I don't want revenge," he said. "I want change." He looked at Mr. Lewis. "I forgive you," Jason said. "But you can't." The night after Jason took over Prestige Motors, he couldn't sleep. The city was quiet, but his mind was loud. So many emotions were running through him: anger, pride, sadness, and confusion. He had stood strong in the face of insult. He had made his father proud. He had spoken for those who had no voice. But something still didn't feel complete. The next morning, Jason arrived early at the dealership. He wanted to start fresh. He looked around the showroom, the same shiny floors, the same bright lights. But today it felt different. It was his now. He walked toward the office that used to belong to Mr. Lewis. But before he could sit down, an old man knocked on the glass door. Jason opened it. The man was in his late 60s, dressed in simple clothes. He looked nervous. "Are you Jason Kingston?" the man asked. Jason nodded. "Yes. Can I help you?" The man looked around, then whispered, "I used to work here, a long time ago." Jason stepped aside. "Please come in." The man sat down, slowly. His name was Mr. Carter. He took out an old envelope and placed it on the table. "I've held on to this for 20 years, he said softly. "But when I saw your face on the news last night, I knew I had to come." Jason looked at the envelope. "What is it?" Mr. Carter hesitated. Then he spoke the words that would change everything. "Your father wasn't always the owner of this place." Jason looked confused. "What do you mean?" Mr. Carter sighed. 20 years ago, this dealership belonged to a man named Marcus Gray. A kind man, fair, honest. Jason leaned forward. "And?" "One day, Marcus got very sick. He trusted your father, worked with him closely. But when he passed away, your father took over the business." Jason sat back. his chest tight. "You're saying my father didn't buy this place?" Mr. Carter shook his head slowly. "He took it. There was no will, no family left. But I was here. I saw everything." Jason opened the envelope. Inside were old documents, photos, and a handwritten letter from Marcus Gray, written shortly before he died. It said, "If something happens to me, please make sure my staff are treated right. This place should always feel like home, not a business." Jason's hands trembled as he read it. His voice was quiet. "Why tell me now?" Mr. Carter looked into his eyes. "Because you still have a heart. And I believe you want to do what's right." Later that evening, Jason confronted his father. They sat across from each other in the Kingston mansion. Jason placed the envelope on the table. Mr. Kingston didn't say anything at first, but Jason could feel the tension. "You didn't. Tell me the truth," Jason said. Mr. Kingston finally spoke. "I did what I had to do. That place was falling apart. I saved it." Jason's voice cracked. "But it wasn't yours." Mr. Kingston looked out the window. "The world isn't fair, son. I made it fair for us." Jason stood up. "That's not the world I want to live in." He walked out of the house. The truth had shaken him. The place he had just taken over, the place he wanted to use for good, was built on a stolen foundation. What would he do now? The next day, Jason returned to the showroom. He gathered the staff and told them everything. He didn't hide the truth. He told them about Marcus Gray, about Mr. Carter, about his father, and then he said something that made everyone pause. "This showroom doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the people who were forgotten, to those who were silenced, to those who were judged." Jason created a new policy. Every month, the dealership would hold a community day, where anyone could visit, learn, and be treated with respect, whether they came to buy or not. He also renamed the business Gray and Kingston Motors to honor the man who had built it with kindness. Outside, people gathered again. But this time, they weren't just cheering Jason's name. They were cheering for the truth, for healing, for justice. Jason looked up at the sign above the door. For the first time, it felt right. He wasn't just the son of a billionaire. He was a builder of something. New days passed since Jason renamed the showroom to Gray and Kingston Motors. The news had spread fast. Some praised him, some questioned him. But Jason stood firm. He knew he had done the right thing. Inside the showroom, something had changed. People smiled more. Even those who couldn't afford a car felt welcome. The air felt lighter. But far away in his glass office on the top floor of a skyscraper, Mr. Kingston was not smiling. He had built his empire with power, strategy, and silence. Jason's actions, while bold and noble, had exposed old secrets, secrets Mr. Kingston never wanted the world to know. That evening, Jason received a call. It was short, cold. "Come to my office. Now." Jason arrived 30 minutes later. He walked into the grand office where his father sat behind a desk of black marble, staring out the window. He didn't turn around. "You think you did something good?" his father asked quietly. Jason stood tall. "I know I did." Mr. Kingston slowly turned his chair. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "You embarrassed me. You questioned how I built everything." Jason didn't flinch. "You built it on someone else's pain." His father slammed his hand on the desk. "This is the real world, Jason. There is no room for softness. No one gave me a crown. I took it." Jason's voice didn't shake. "And that's why I won't wear it." There was a long silence. Then, Mr. Kingston stood and walked toward his son. "I built that showroom into a luxury brand. I made people respect our name." Jason looked straight at him. "You made people fear it." Mr. Kingston's jaw tightened. "I'm warning you," he said coldly. "Don't destroy what I built just to feel like a hero." Jason took a breath. "I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm trying to be human." He turned to leave, but his father's final words stopped him. "If you keep going like this, I won't protect you." Jason paused at the door. He looked back. "I never asked you to." The elevator ride down felt heavy. Jason had always known his father was a hard man, but this was the first time he felt like they were on opposite sides. This wasn't just about a car showroom anymore. This was about principles, about truth, about who he wanted to become. Back at Gray and Kingston Motors, the team had grown stronger. Tom, the young salesman, had started a mentorship program for teens who dreamed of working in the auto world. Jason launched a Respect First training for all staff. Customers noticed the difference. One woman even said, "I didn't come to buy a car. I came to feel seen. And today, I did." But not everyone was happy. One morning, an email arrived. It was from a legal office. It said, "Ownership of the dealership is being reviewed due to concerns about past property transfers. Investigation pending." Jason's hands froze on the keyboard. He knew where this came from. His father. The warning was real. And now it had begun. Later that night, Jason met with Mr. Carter again. He showed him the email. Mr. Carter looked sad. "I feared this might happen," he said. Jason sighed. "He won't stop." Mr. Carter placed a hand on Jason's shoulder. "Then you can't stop either." Jason looked out the window, deep in thought. He remembered his mother's words long ago. True strength isn't loud. It's steady. The next day, Jason called a press conference. The media filled the showroom. Jason stood in front of the cameras and said, "I didn't start this to fight with my father. I started it to finish a story that was left incomplete. I won't run from truth, and I won't stop building a place where everyone is treated with respect." He looked into the cameras. "If that means fighting powerful people, I'm ready." The crowd clapped. But somewhere in a tall building, a powerful man watched the press conference, his jaw tight, his eyes cold. Mr. Kingston was not finished. The courtroom was silent. Every seat was filled, reporters, lawyers, former employees, customers. Everyone had come to see what would happen to Gray and Kingston Motors. At the front sat Jason, calm but focused. On the other side sat his father, Mr. Kingston, surrounded by sharp-suited lawyers. The air was thick with tension. This wasn't just a legal case. It was a battle of values. The judge entered, and everyone stood. The hearing began. Mr. Kingston's lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, years ago this property was taken without legal ownership documents. We demand it be returned to its rightful owner, Mr. Kingston." Jason's heart beat fast. He expected this. But he also came prepared. Jason stood. He didn't have a fancy lawyer beside him, just his voice and the truth. He handed the judge the letter from Marcus Gray, the man who originally owned the dealership. "Father may have taken control when Marcus died, but Marcus left behind his heart, and I found it in this letter." The judge read the letter quietly. The courtroom was still. Jason continued. "This dealership wasn't built with money alone. It was built with honesty, with dreams, with people." He pointed at Mr. Carter in the audience. "This man worked here. Before my father took over, he remembers how it was and how it changed." Mr. Carter stood and spoke with a shaky voice. "Marcus Gray treated people with love. This place was more than a showroom. It was a family. When Mr. Kingston took over, that spirit was lost." Tears rolled down his wrinkled face, until Jason brought it back. Jason's voice grew stronger. "I don't want revenge. I don't want power. I just want to keep a promise to a man who can't speak for himself." He looked at the judge. "I renamed this place to honor him. I changed how it treats people, not because it makes money, but because it makes sense." There was a long pause. Mr. Kingston slowly stood. For the first time, he looked tired. "I built an empire," he said, "but my son built something better." Everyone turned, even Jason. Mr. Kingston's voice softened. I tried to protect my name, but I forgot what made it strong in the first place. He looked at Jason. I forgot that you are my legacy, not my mistakes. Gasps filled the room. Even the judge looked surprised. Mr. Kingston. Weeks passed since the courtroom victory. Gray and Kingston Motors had become more than just a car dealership. It had become a symbol of respect. People came not just to buy cars, but to feel welcome, to be treated fairly, to belong. Jason worked every day, not behind a desk, but with the team. He greeted customers, cleaned cars, helped the staff. He believed leadership was about service, not status. One sunny afternoon, a black car pulled up to the showroom. It wasn't fancy. Just simple and clean. Out stepped a woman in her late 50s. She wore a navy blue coat and carried a small leather folder. Her eyes searched the place carefully, like she had been here before. Jason noticed her and walked over. "Welcome to Gray and Kingston Motors," he said with a warm smile. The woman looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice soft and emotional. "I'm Emma Gray, Marcus Gray's sister." Jason froze. For a moment, everything around him felt still. You're his sister?" he asked, shocked. She nodded. "I lived overseas when Marcus passed away. I wasn't told much, but I recently saw your name and the changes you made. I came to see for myself." Jason led her inside. He showed her the photo wall dedicated to Marcus. He told her the whole story, about Mr. Carter, about the letter, the courtroom. Everything. Tears filled her eyes. "You brought back my brother's spirit," she whispered. Jason felt a lump in his throat. "I only did what I thought was right." Emma reached into her folder and took out a document. "This is Marcus's original business vision. I found it in some old boxes last week." Jason read it quietly. It was full of Marcus's dreams. "This place must always treat people like family. Not customers, not numbers, but humans." Jason looked up. "That's what we're trying to do." Then Emma surprised him. She smiled. "I want to help. I don't have much, but I want to be part of this again. Maybe teach staff. Share Marcus's old lessons." Jason grinned. "We'd be honored." Later that day, Jason gathered the team. He introduced Emma. She shared stories of Marcus, how he started with only one used car, how he always gave discounts to struggling families, how he once gave away a car to a single mother for free. The room was quiet. Then someone clapped. Then another. Soon the whole room stood, applauding not just Emma, but the spirit of kindness that built this place. That evening, Mr. Kingston visited again. He watched from the back, silent, humbled. He didn't say much. But as he left, he turned to Jason and said, "You turned my mistakes into something beautiful." Jason replied softly, "I learned from both your strength and your silence." Mr. Kingston nodded. For once, they understood each other, not as businessman and son, but as two men trying to grow. Months later, the dealership opened a second branch, and at the front door, written in bold, simple letters, "Everyone deserves respect." That became their motto, and every day Jason made sure those words weren't just painted on a wall, but lived in every handshake, every smile, every sale. On the anniversary of Marcus Gray's passing, the team held a candlelight evening in the showroom. Staff and customers shared stories. Jason stood last. He looked around the glowing room. "I wore ripped jeans when I walked in here the first time," he said. "People judged me, laughed at me, kicked me out." He paused. "And now, we welcome everyone who walks through that door." He raised his candle. "To Marcus, to kindness, to second chances,